Alrighty. Who are you and what is your story?
My name is Brian Keith Wyatt Jr. I'm originally from the south side of Chicago, Illinois. I am the president and CEO of Be Easy Graphics. We're a full-service creative marketing and website design agency. And I'm gonna say where I'm from again one more time. I'm originally from the south side of Chicago, Illinois, where I learned to use entrepreneurship to overcome adversity and homelessness. I was the kid that was selling snacks and candies in the classroom. And where I grew up, a lot of people thought that it was because, I had big dreams of getting rich, and wearing gold chains and all that stuff. But in reality, it's because where I went to school, it was about 30 miles away from home where I lived, and we had specific uniform and school colors. And the neighborhoods that I had to go through to get home didn't necessarily agree with some of those colors. And so I had to take an extended bus route, so I needed extra money for that, and money didn't come easy when I was growing up, so I had to make it myself. And if I didn't, the consequences, of course, were I get my sneakers taken, or I get jumped and beat up or something. So that's kind of where my grind came from. I've always been focused on doing something, getting something, going to the next level and achieving something that was bigger than myself, because I felt like there was always something at stake or on the line, even if it was just my own dignity as far as what I was going to achieve for myself and what I was going to tell my children. So yeah, that's my story.
Wow, that's extremely powerful. I'm sure very summarized. I can
Yeah,
only imagine.
absolutely.
For someone who has to grow up in that, it seems like at least now you've found the positive in it. You said that it made you an entrepreneurial-minded person, and here we are now, and we'll get there. But was that something you noticed in the moment? Was it something you were unaware of, that other people's situation was different? What was that like in the moment when you were younger and you had to do these things just to get home safely?
One of the things that I realized, I guess, in the moment was that I enjoyed doing it. I enjoyed how people felt when I had what they were looking for. You know what I mean? It's like being a person that has the answers, and to this day I still kind of geek out about things. Like, for example, whenever I get kicked out of school or suspended or for whatever reason, rather than just sit at home and play video games all day, what my parents would have me do is read encyclopedias. Back in the day, people had bookshelves from A to Z and 1 to 100 of encyclopedias, where I would have to read the entire book, let's say it was B, and then I had to do a book report about it and submit it to my parents at the end of the day when they got home from work. And so I ended up memorizing random facts. And so whether it was selling snacks and candy and having exactly what people wanted, or if it was doing homework assignments and having the solution to the problem because I randomly memorized some fact that they needed to complete it, for me it was about solving the problem. And I realized that was what I was good at. It was being a problem solver. And that just has been present in every aspect of my life, from being a kid to growing up and going to college. I wanted to solve problems. So.
Yeah, so again, you mentioned some extreme adversity, homelessness alone. I can't imagine. So I'm genuinely curious. As someone I had a very good childhood personally. I realize that I am very blessed for it. And this might be a tough question to answer, but what is your advice to someone like me? Someone who, don't get me wrong, I didn't have it all, but I definitely wasn't homeless by any stretch. And again, I'm thankful for that, but I definitely realize moments in time where it's taken for granted. I don't realize how good I have it until I have conversations like this, So what is something you'd advice, or something you'd say to me as someone that grew up on the other side, maybe takes it for granted at times?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good question. One of the things that I've learned in that experience, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that experience just so that you get the full context. I went to school at the University of Illinois at Urbana, and I'm from Chicago, so they're about 180, 200 miles apart. So when I went to college, I did really good my freshman year, right? I had 3-point-something GPA. The next year, my mom lost her job, And I was on my own, right? Like I didn't have money coming from home that helped me pay for food and all of that. So I had to figure it out. And one of the things that they typically tell black men growing up is get a job, like work. You gotta work for what you earn or work for what you want. And I got 3 jobs. I started out as a librarian at the school library, and then when I found my passion in cooking, and I still cook to this day, and I became a line cook at Chipotle, a line cook at this place called Firehouse Subs. It was a bar, and then I was a sous chef for a bistro on the other side of town in Urbana. So I was always moving around, always gone, and working that much just to be able to pay bills, because I think minimum wage at the time was like $5. So it was like, it was really low. Working that much, I didn't focus on my studies. You know, I was working maybe 80 hours a week. And because of that, my GPA dropped down to a cumulative 0.84 GPA, which of course I was politely yet academically dismissed from the University of Illinois. And I had too much pride to go back home to Chicago. But I couldn't live in the dorms where I was at. So I literally had to move my stuff into a friend's house. He didn't have a bed for me, but I at least stored my stuff there. And I was couch surfing for about 5 to 6 months. So I would stay at a friend's house here, a friend's house there. You know, they say that all these political correct terms for homelessness, houselessness, and all of that. I don't know, I call it couch surfing, right? So during that time, I would go door to door to businesses because I had just learned Adobe Creative Cloud 1, or Creative Suite 1, that's what it was then. And I would ask them if I could design them a new sign or a new logo. And I used that skill to kind of get back on my feet because I didn't have transportation to get to the other jobs that I had, so I had to leave those. And I would just work for myself. And I was only charging like maybe $75 or $100, like it was really low because I just needed to get to the next point in my life, you know what I mean? To staircase my way up. And the first guy that hired me, and he hired me on a contract, it was $400 a month. I won't forget the amount at all because it sounds like a little bit today, but it was a lot to me back then because I was able to sublet an apartment for $100. I was able to budget $100 for food a month. You know what I mean? Like it was a starting place for me. But he said the reason why he hired me, he said, because you make it look easy. He said, I know that you're going through a very hard time right now, but you still come dressed professional, you still have a positive attitude, and you still do really good work. No one would ever know that there was a problem. And so he nicknamed me Be Easy, as in Brian makes it look easy. And that became the brand, and I named my company after that because I want our clients to feel that way when they work with us, that we're making it easier for them to run their business. We're making it easier for them to achieve their goals because they have the support of a team behind them rather than trying to figure it out on their own. So, yeah. So I guess my advice would be, and this is what I did at the time, it's about resilience. I had a personal mantra that I had found and I come across in a book that I read that sticks with me to this day is I will either find a way or I'll make one. And I think that's one of the most beautiful things about being human is that even if there's not a path in front of you, you still have the ingenuity, the creativity, and the mindset and imagination to create things with what you have.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I think you're, from what you're telling me, you're the epitome of that. You know,
yeah. You
made things happen with very little. And again, like someone in my shoes, it's very easy for me or anyone to take for granted what we do have, you know, but again, like I said, the reason we're sitting here is because conversations like this make people think differently.
That's right.
And I think that's huge. Now, final question. And also, after you answer this, I'd love for you to elaborate a little bit more on where we are today. But what advice, do you give to someone that is now in your shoes? I guess that goes two ways, but if there is another answer to that, what advice would you give to someone that is in similar shoes as to you? And again, where are we today?
So, and I think I can summarize both into one of my favorite quotes. I'm a big fan of like Rocky and the entire series and even Creed. In fact, we have tickets to go see Creed 3 today. But one of the most inspirational things, and Rocky says all kinds of phenomenal things. Let me be specific, Sylvester Stallone, because in many cases he'll write the script or inspire it. But one of the most profound things that he said that still sticks with me to this day, and I literally just posted as a quote yesterday, was, if you want to change things in a big way, you have to make big changes. And I think that's one of the things that I would encourage people, because there are a lot of people that are afraid of change. Like they reach a certain status quo and they figure that's how things should be and they should stay that way and it should never change. But that's just the whole state of nature. Like everything changes, everything transforms. We wrinkle over time, we go back to where we came from. And so not just embracing the change, but also being a catalyst for that change. If you want things to be better, if you want things to look different and be different, you have to be the catalyst for that change. And so in this instance, he was training, and so he had to take him to a whole new environment to train, to learn new skills, to pick up and gain different levels of strength. And so that's where I'm at right now, and that's where I would encourage people to be, is that, we've come a long way from being hairy monkeys back in the day. Like, we had to grow and change over time. And I'm trying to figure out what the next step of that evolution is for me. And I think a lot of people should be focused on that as well. How can I be 2% better than I was yesterday? And so that's my focus right now. And I'm trying to make that change holistically, because I believe that it takes a whole version of myself to move everything that's important to me forward. Like, I can't move forward financially if I'm physically strong and weak, if I'm mentally broken or spiritually discouraged. I want to move forward with the best version of myself, so that when people come to me and they ask me for help, they ask me to solve problems, then I'm operating at my most optimal point to be able to help them